What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be taking a look at the first Hall effect keyboard to come out from Pulsar, the PCMK2 HE TKL. The TKL is one of my favorite form factors out there for a keyboard. So with that being said, I was really excited to get my hands on this, see how the build is, the performance, and the software, and I really wanted to see how it stacks up against competition. So in this video, I did my best to answer all those questions, and hopefully I'll be able to help you decide whether or not this could possibly be the perfect keyboard for you. So let's check it out. Before we get started today, I did want to let you know that this was sent out to me. However, with that being said, everything you are going to be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Included inside the box, it does come with a sticker, documentation. This is just an extra plate. They did include a custom one for me. I will show you here shortly. This one clearly says Pulsar on it, a switch and a keycap puller, and then a USB-C to Type A cable. So here's a look of the board itself, and I really do like the aesthetic of this. I'm a big fan of this panda look, and they did include a custom plate over here for me. So I do feel like that is a really cool touch. I'm pretty sure that they're going to have the option for you where you could pick up these custom plates. As I had already mentioned, I'm a huge fan of the TKL layout. The one thing about this board that I kind of wish was differently, as you can see, it does have these exposed keycaps. I do kind of prefer a fully enclosed case, and the build on this, the top of it is aluminum and the bottom down here is plastic. So I do prefer myself a heavier set full aluminum case, but the feeling of this, I must say, it does feel pretty good. It feels a little bit on the heavier side. It doesn't feel as light as a lot of plastic style cases out there, especially since you can see here on the back, it does have quite a bit of plastic aside from just the top kind of thinner aluminum piece that the keycaps themselves do sit in. But the USB-C port over here, kind of in the middle, but offset there to the left, as you can clearly see. And then coming down here on the bottom, the design of this looks really cool. You can see the silicone gasket in here with the Pulsar logo. It does have these 3 silicone feet down here on the bottom, these 2 up here at the top, and it does have these flip out feet to where you can adjust the angle or the height of the front of the keyboard. And both of these adjustable feet, they do have rubberized bottoms on them to provide some additional grip. And there was nothing about this keyboard that really stood out that bothered me. Everything feels nice and comfortable. The edges on here are nice and rounded. So the entire time that I've been using it, it has felt really solid. So we'll go ahead and drop it on my scale here really quickly. Looks like it is coming in at about 972.5 grams. So though the weight does feel pretty good on this, I don't feel like it feels too lightweight for my liking. I have noticed from time to time as I'm gaming on this that I do kind of tend to push it around just a little bit. This does come included with double shot PBT keycaps. They do feel great. Here's a close-up shot of them from both the front and the back. So now let's talk about their switches. Pulsar did collab with Gateron to create these. They do have a dual rail design, and I do want to say that I am pretty surprised by using these switches. Typically, I found that dual rail switches tend to have a little bit more stability to them and a little bit less stem wobble. With these switches, I was going back and forth and comparing them to the brand new magnetic Jade Pros that are starting to come out on a lot of these keyboards. I've talked about these in my previous videos, how these are some of my favorite switches out there on the market. And I did find that with these Pulsar switches, I am getting a pretty noticeable amount of stem wobble. So they do feel a little bit looser, and even coming back and forth here, comparing them to the new Jade Pros, they just all around feel much more stiff. And these, as you can see, there's just a lot more movement and quite a bit more play. It is pretty noticeable on that. And as I have been going back and forth and comparing them to the Jade Pros do feel a bit more stable, but they feel just a little bit heavier, where in my opinion, these Pulsar switches, they do feel a little bit lighter. But once you do remove the keycaps, this is pretty easy to open up. So just to let you know, it looks like there's 3 screws right here at the bottom, and then 3 screws up here at the top. This is the locations of them in case you did want to take this apart and open it up. So once I removed those screws, it actually was very easy. It just kind of falls apart here, so there's not like any clips in here or anything that's holding this together. But here is a close-up shot. It does look like they are using these silicone sound dampeners underneath the space bar. These stabilizers are very clearly lubed. And then here is a really quick close-up shot of what the PCB looks like underneath the switches. The nameplate that is over here on the side, it's actually very easy to remove and put back in here. It's just being held in place by these magnets, so really cool touch. And the switches themselves are sitting inside of an aluminum switch plate. And as we flip it over here on the back, in between the aluminum switch plate and the PCB, they do have a piece of polymer in there to help improve the sound dampening. And it does look like it is kind of thick there. I was playing around with it, but I didn't feel like taking the circuit board off with these screws right here, though you can do so pretty easily. And then on the back here, they also do have a piece of sound dampening foam. And here is a close-up on that to kind of give you guys a better idea of what the thickness looks like. And they have a piece of silicone down here at the bottom. And typical, as you can see, thicker at the top, and then it gets thinner down at the bottom, and then right below that you have just the plastic tray. To change the settings for your keyboard, they're using a web-based driver and really simple to connect to. When you do, starting over here at the top left-hand side is where you have the LED indicator. This is where you can come in and, as you can clearly see here, make adjustments to your different LED settings. They have presets and these custom profile options. Next up on the key map, this is where you can simply make changes to your keys. Here's your basic key, system key, extensions, macro, and they have a custom key setting as well. Then they also have these presets that you can set up over here. The one thing that I really would like Pulsar to do is add functions here for the keys. For example, SOCD. So right now over here, as you can see, they do have the setting which they call quick tap. But if you look down here, this is their version of SOCD. So you cannot currently enable it through the software. How you do it is you have to do it through the keyboard itself. You hold function and you press left shift to activate or to deactivate it. And this option has been working. If you come over here to the function layer, you can see here is the program setting for it right here. Everything about the functionality on this board has been working perfectly as it should, except for this SOCD option that they have. When I do enable it, it does not work between the W and S key. So if I'm holding W and I press S while I'm holding W, it just stops like old-fashioned keyboards do. The only way that I'm getting it to work currently is A and D. I mean, I haven't tried anything else except for W and S and A and D, but it is working on A and D. And this SOCD function has been kind of glitchy for me. It's been really inconsistent. So to give you an example of how the SOCD is working for me, sorry I don't have a camera for my hand with me right now, but I will try and tell you guys what I'm doing. If I were to press and hold D to strafe right, and while I'm holding D, press A, with SOCD turned off, as you can see, typical thing you get from keyboards. Now I'll do it the other direction. You just come to a dead stop there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down function and press left shift to enable it, and that just enabled it for me. So same thing, I'm going to hold down D to strafe to the right, and while I'm holding D, I'm going to press A at the same time to move left, and we'll see what happens. As you can see there, I didn't do anything right there. I didn't let go of A or move my hands or anything, and it just kind of shut off. Now it's working as it should. Let's try it again. So I'm going to go left and try and go right. See, it's glitching out. I'm holding both keys down simultaneously, A and D. So this is kind of an issue I get where sometimes it works, it doesn't work, it kind of glitches out and goes back. And again, as I'm doing this, I'm holding down both keys at the same time after I press the opposite direction. And see, it's just been kind of glitchy for me. I have messed around with adjusting my sensitivity, and I still am having this issue even after I'm adjusting my sensitivity. And there, as you can see, it just happened for me again. I'm really hoping this is something that they will be able to address with a firmware update. But as for right now, the SOCD function is just not working out that well for me. Next up over here on the performance tab, this is where you can select all your keys. You can also do individual keys. They do give you a switch selection down here. They do have the magnetic jade on here, which is really cool. Hopefully they'll add the Pro, or hopefully this will work with the Pro. But over here is if you turn off the RT mode, it will just be the fixed actuation mode. If you turn it on is where you'll have different settings. So the actuation point, you can set it as low as 0.1 millimeters. It does also make adjustments in 0.1 millimeters, and you can go as high as 4 millimeters with their switches in here. Then over here on the press and the release for the rapid trigger, same thing, it does go in 0.1 millimeters all the way up to 2 millimeters of a maximum. Same thing over here for the release. And then you have your standard settings over here, which is continuous rapid trigger. This is where you can turn off the separate press and release if you don't wish to control them separately, and do different settings. And then they also do have a bottom out protection over here. Next up, you have your macro tab to set up any type of macro functions that you may have. And then last but not least, if you come to the settings tab, this is where you can select your language. Really cool that they do allow you to switch between polling rates. So if you are using this board with 8K polling rate and it is not running very stable, I recommend dropping it down to see if that would fix your issue. And then last but not least, you can update your firmware over here on this tab. When it comes to the performance, this is using an 8K polling rate and up to a 6K scanning rate. I have seen them previously advertising keyboards are going to be coming out in the future that will offer up to a 32K scanning rate. So I'm really excited to get my hands on those, and I honestly was really blown away by the performance of this keyboard. I was literally not expecting at all what this thing has been doing for me. Now, I do want to put out a disclaimer for these latency results. I am using my solenoid rig to do the testing. The results on this can vary due to many different varying factors, such as end-to-end system latency. But with all that being said, I currently have been testing 4 keyboards out all at the same time against the Wooting 60HE, and I was not expecting this thing to perform as well as it did. I ran this test for the press and the release 10 times on the Wooting 60HE, and then same thing, I ran it 10 times on the press and the release for this Pulsar board. The Wooting won on the press only twice, and it won on the release only once. They had a dead even tie on the release 1 time, but this Pulsar board won very clearly 8 times on both the press and the release, so it really became a common theme where this seemed to be performing better than the 60HE for me. All right, guys, so that about wraps things up on the PCMK2 HE. Really impressive for Pulsar's first board. I do feel like the performance that you are getting from this board, that the pricing is actually really fair for it, especially considering the fact that this is a true TKL form factor. I've been doing a lot of latency testing on these keyboards recently, and there really are 4 keyboards that have stood out to me to be some of the fastest that I've ever tested. The Wooting 80HE, the Iqnix EZ63, and now this board is up there in the running for one of the fastest keyboards out there that I've tested. I'm not going to tell you guys the 4th one yet because I do have a review on that coming up soon. Now, clearly for my personal preference, this thing isn't perfect. I would prefer to have something like the Jade Pros in here. So hopefully in the future, like I said, I do know that they have more keyboards coming out. Hopefully they'll give us different options to add different types of switches. Again, I would kind of prefer an all aluminum enclosed case. But with all that being said, everything that I've showed you guys about this keyboard, if the layout seems to be fine for you, you're okay with kind of this open design here on the switches and everything, this really is shaping up to be a very promising keyboard. And in fact, all this has done is made me really look forward to what the future holds for Pulsar. So if you have any additional questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.